going to study detailed passive and active elements. In previous video, we already started that. Now we are going to okay. Now let us start it. Yeah. Now we are going to look into detailed analysis of independent as well as dependent sources. Okay. So here independent sources means here you can see an ideal voltage source. Okay. So ideal voltage source means it has a symbol like this, as you can see on the screen. It has a symbol like this. So it has a circle and polarity also. Let us say this is a voltage signal, voltage source. So suppose if you want to say this source as ideal voltage source, then it must have voltage to current characteristics like this. So which means, so when you are connecting a load across terminals A and B, so whatever may be the load voltage, this source is going to supply that voltage without any drop in its voltage, irrespective of load and irrespective of time. So you will get the straight line like this. Okay, so that is the ideal voltage source. But practically there is no availability of ideal voltage source. So these are not practically realizable sources. But in order to understand practical voltage source, ideal voltage source must be understood first. So that is the reason why we are looking into ideal voltage source. So this is the symbol for ideal voltage source, and this is the PI characteristic. And you have to remember one thing: the internal resistance of ideal voltage source is 0, which means there is no internal resistance for an ideal voltage source. Okay. Now let us look into practical voltage. So practical voltage source means as you can see here. So the difference between ideal and practical voltage source is, so this is a ideal voltage source. When you connect a resistor like this in series for a ideal voltage source, then it becomes practical voltage source. Okay. So an ideal voltage source will have no internal resistance, but practically there will be a small internal resistance that is in series with the ideal voltage source for practical voltage source. Okay. So for a practical voltage source, the internal resistance will be very small, but it is still there. But for ideal voltage source, the internal resistance is 0. Okay. When you connect a load here across the terminals A and B, as you can see on the diagram, so when you connect a load across the terminals A and B, what will happen is, when the current is flowing through the internal resistance, then some of the voltage will be dropped here. Remaining voltage will be appeared across the terminals A and terminal B. Therefore, it cannot supply constant amount of voltage irrespective of load. Okay. So there is a limitation of voltage supplied by the practical voltage source. It cannot supply infinite variation of load. Okay. There is no possibility that it will supply irrespective of load. Definitely, based on the internal resistance, then it is going to give energy to a particular set of voltages. Okay. So what will happen is, let us say this straight line is a, as you can see on the screen, this straight line is an ideal voltage source characteristic. practical voltage source characteristic will be like this, which is a dropping characteristic, or you can say drooping characteristic. As you keep on increasing the load current, then the voltage of practical voltage source at its terminals is going to be fall, and at particular voltage, the output of this terminals A and terminal B will become 0 as you keep on increasing the load current. Okay, so that is the understanding of practical voltage source. Okay, now so this is the VI characteristic. VI characteristic of a practical current source. So the practical voltage source will have drooping characteristic, but ideal voltage source will have constant constant or straight line. Okay, so and this is the symbol for a practical voltage source. So a practical voltage source will have some small internal resistance, but ideal voltage source will have zero internal resistance. So that is one point. Next we will be looking into current source, ideal current source. As you can see here, ideal current source is represented by a symbol as shown on the screen. It has a circle and a direction as well as value. Okay, so that is the symbol for ideal current source. So similar explanation, just like practical current source, can be given. Here you can see, when you are connecting a load, of course you are going to connect a load across terminals A and B. When you are connecting load here across the terminals A and B, then this ideal current source can supply infinite amount of energy without reduction of its output current. So the output current will not be changed even though if you change the load voltage or load itself, and it can supply for infinite amount of time. So this ideal voltage source cannot be realized in a real world. It is also a concept that is introduced to get a better understanding about practical current source. So this is an ideal voltage source which is not realizable, and this is the VI characteristic for ideal current source. As you can see here, when you are keep on increasing the voltage on x-axis, the current supplied by the source is constant. There is no change in its value. So that is the VI characteristic of a ideal current source. As I told you already, there is no way that you can realize a ideal current source. Okay. Now we will be looking into practical current source. So practical current source means, so it is an ideal voltage source. If you want to draw the practical current source, first you have to draw ideal current source, but in parallel you have to connect a resistor, and that resistance is very high. And let me tell you one thing, the internal resistance of ideal current source is infinity, infinite amount of resistance, internal resistance for ideal current source. But practically, current sources will have large amount of, its value is very high. The internal resistance of this resistor is very high. Okay, high resistance is connected across the practical current source. Suppose if you connect load across the terminals A and B, okay, what will happen is, as we keep on increasing the load voltage, the current supplied by the source will be reduced. At one point, the current supplied by the source will become zero. Okay, and this dotted line represents the VI characteristic of a ideal current source. Okay, so this is VI characteristic of practical current source. So far we have seen sources. Sources are also known as active elements. Okay, active elements can be called as sources. Sources are divided into voltage source and current source. Again, voltage sources are divided into ideal voltage source and practical voltage source. Similarly, current sources are divided into ideal current source and practical current source. And these are the characteristics. Now, we will be looking into other kind of sources, that is dependent sources. So dependent sources means ideal voltage source, ideal current source, practical voltage source and practical current source are also called as independent sources because their output value will not be dependent on any other value. But dependent sources are a bit different sources as you can see on the screen. So here always dependent sources are denoted by a diamond symbol. Okay, whether it is a current source or a voltage source, it doesn't matter, but it has to be represented with a diamond symbol. So if you want to classify dependent sources, we have four dependent sources. Voltage controlled current source. Okay, so this is a current source, dependent current source, where its output value will be dependent on some other value of voltage. Okay, so the output of this current source depends on voltage of the other parameter. Okay, so this is the symbol. Since we are talking about current source now, therefore it has a direction as you can see on the screen. And next, suppose if you take other kind of current source, that is current controlled current source, it is also represented by a diamond symbol and with the direction, and here you have a value, and this value depends on some other value of current. Therefore, so current controlled current source is a current source where its output value of current depends on some other value of current. Okay, so that is about current sources, dependent current sources. Now let us look into dependent voltage sources. So this first one, first voltage source is voltage controlled voltage source, which means the output voltage of this source depends on some other value of voltage. Okay, so as I told you, this is a voltage source, therefore it is represented with a polarity and a diamond symbol as you can see on the screen. Similarly, there is another voltage source, and this voltage source has output value that depends on some other value of current. Therefore, you call this as current controlled voltage source. Okay, so these are the different types of dependent sources we have in electrical engineering. Okay, so basically we have four types of dependent sources. They are voltage controlled voltage source, current controlled current source, voltage controlled voltage source, current controlled voltage source. Okay, in some textbooks you can find this voltage controlled current source as voltage dependent current source. Both are same. Similarly, current controlled current source can also be called as current dependent current source. Similarly, voltage controlled voltage source can be called as voltage dependent voltage source. Also, current controlled voltage source can be termed as voltage current dependent voltage source. So you can have their names as dependent instead of controlled. Both are same. Okay, so this is the classification of dependent sources. Now, so based on the information or knowledge that we have earned in previous video and in this video, we will try to find the nodes of this circuit. Okay, this is an exercise problem as you can see on the screen. So you have a circuit. Can you call this as a circuit? Definitely, you can call this as a circuit because it has a closure path. Also, you can call this as a network. So, you can try to find the nodes. Let us try to find the nodes. So, what is a node? Node is a connection point between two or more elements. Therefore, here at this node A, okay, this 10-volt source and this 5 ohm resistor are connected. Therefore, this A becomes a node. Okay. Similarly, here this 5 ohm branch and this 2 ohm branch are connected at this point. Okay. Therefore, this becomes node B. Okay. Similarly, you can see here, let us say this as node C. Okay. So between node C, suppose one thing I want to say, suppose if you have no element connected, but it is connected with a straight line, you have to understand it as a short circuit. Okay. When two nodes are connected with a short circuit, treat that node as a same node. Okay. You don't have to number it with a different symbol. Here, as I told you, this node can be called as B. This node and this node is connected with a straight line, no? Means a short circuit. Therefore, this one and this one are same. Similarly, this one and this one are same. Therefore, combinedly, all the three dots become a single node. That is node B. Similar explanation to node C. Okay, node C is, see here, for node C, this 10-volt source and this 2 ohm resistor are connected at this point. And this point is connected to this point with a straight line. Therefore, we can treat these two dots as a single node. Therefore, you can name it as C. Similar explanation for this straight line and this straight line. Therefore, if two nodes are connected with a short circuit, then you have to consider it as a same node. Okay. So that is one point I want to make. Another thing is, how many branches that are connected in this diagram? So what is a branch? Branch means it is a connection between two nodes. Here, 10-volt source is connected between A and C. Therefore, you can call it as a branch. Similarly, 5 ohm resistor is connected between A and B. Therefore, you can term it as a branch. Similarly, 2 ohm resistor, 3 ohm resistor and 2 ampere source are connected between node B and node C. Therefore, they are also called as branches. So totally we have three nodes and how many branches? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 branches. So we have 5 nodes and we have 5, sorry, 3 nodes and 5 branches in this diagram. Okay. Now, let us look into the other classification of elements. So if you want to classify elements, as I told you earlier, so based on whether they are taking the energy or giving the energy, based on that point, we have classified elements into two types, passive element and active element. Similarly, whether they are having linear characteristics or not, based on that point, we can classify always elements into two elements. They are linear elements and non-linear elements, or you can say linear systems or non-linear systems. Now let us look into what is linearity. Linearity means, suppose mathematically speaking, you have to take two systems. Let us take system 1 with input A. Okay, let us take system 1 with input x1 of t and system x2 of t, which has outputs y1 of t and y2 of t respectively, which means if x1 is the input, y1 is the output, x2 is the input, y2 is the output. So that is how you have to understand. So after that, what I am going to do is I am going to multiply x1 with a1, which is a constant. Okay, and x2 with a2. Finally, I should get the same variables on output, a1 into y1 of t, because x1 is the input and y1 is the output of first system. Similarly, x2 is the input and y2 is the input of second system. Suppose if you multiply with x1 with a1t, then the output must have a1 in it. Similarly, suppose if you multiply a2 with x2 of t, then the output must have a2. So if this condition is satisfied, then we can say that this system is a linear system, okay, or linear element. So when the system or an element satisfies linearity property, then that system is known as linear system. Okay. So examples for linear system are, as you can see here, resistor, inductor, and capacitor. So these three elements are examples of linear systems. Okay. Now non-linearity. Non-linearity means, suppose if any system is not obeying linearity property, then that system is known as non-linear system. Okay. For example, diode, diode and transistor, all other electronic devices. For example, I will tell you what is the difference between linearity and non-linearity graphically. Suppose if you take a resistor, then it will have linear characteristics like this. A straight line passing through origin. Then we can say that that element is a linear element. But if you take a diode and if you draw the VA characteristic of a diode, then it will have characteristics like this. Okay. So this is a linear characteristic and this is not a linear characteristic. Okay, that is the difference. So if a straight line passing through the VA characteristic of an element is a straight line passing through the origin, then that system is a linear system. And if it is other than that straight line passing through the origin, then it is not a linear system. You can call it as a non-linear system. So basically, if a system is obeying linearity property, or you can say in another way, if a system is obeying Ohm's law, then it is called as linear element. If it is not obeying linearity property or Ohm's law, is known as non-linear system. Okay. Now let us look into the other classification of elements. As you can see here, so here this is a distributed and lumped parameter. So distributed means, let me tell you what is a distributed system. So distributed system means every electrical signal that is going through the transmission line will have certain wavelength. Okay. So what is a wavelength? Wavelength is it is defined as the distance between two crests or two troughs. That is known as wavelength. Suppose if the wavelength of the electromagnetic wave is much greater than the physical size of a system. System means, let us take a resistor. Resistor will be in a size of few centimeters. But if you take some electromagnetic signals, the wavelength of those signals will be very high, which means in kilometers or meters. But here the resistor is having very small length, that is centimeters. Therefore, if the physical size of the system is much greater than, much smaller than the wavelength of the electromagnetic wave, then that system is known as lumped system. Lumped system means concentrated system. What we are going to do is, we are going to say all the resistance into a single value of resistance. So that is known as lumped system. For example, resistors, inductors, capacitors, and capacitance also. You can take capacitor as a lumped element, or you can take capacitance as a lumped parameter, or you can say resistor as a lumped element, or you can take resistance as a lumped parameter. Lumped means concentrated. Okay, lumped parameter. So which means if the wavelength of the electromagnetic wave is much greater than the physical size of the system, then that system is known as lumped system. Okay. Similarly, suppose in some cases the wavelength of electromagnetic wave is smaller than the physical size of the system. It is a very big element. For example, if you take a transmission line is stretched along hundreds of kilometers of length. But if the wavelength is much smaller than the length of the transmission line, then we are not going to take all the resistance of total transmission line into a single element. What we are going to do is we are trying to uh, divide all the transmission line into sections, and we will take resistance, inductance and capacitance for each section, but not for total transmission line. So that kind of system is known as distributed system, because we are distributing the parameters along the length of transmission line. Okay, so that is the example for distributed system, and the elements are called as distributed elements. Okay, and the parameters are called as distributed parameters. So if the length of the transmission line, or if the length of the system is much greater than the wavelength, which means wavelength is small, physical size of the system is greater. If in that case, then we have to take distributed parameter system. Okay, so this is how you have to understand all the concepts of first unit. Okay, so basically we have three types of classifications in this. So basically we have three types of classifications in this first unit. First one is based on whether they are taking the energy or giving the energy. Second classification is based on whether they are linear or non-linear. Third type of classification is whether the system is physically big or small compared to the wavelength of electromagnetic wave. So based on these 3 points, we have three classifications of elements. Okay, in next video, we will discuss rest of the topics. Okay, thank you.